Troy, can you give us a brief background of the S&T Academy before the merger?
We started about 5 years ago, and really it was more just to try and help and support young players that we'd worked with in the past. Having been a primary school teacher, they were just about to go into secondary school, and unfortunately I think that the standards that are around nowadays within secondary school football are not the best. So first and foremost, we wanted just to give them some more coaching, quality coaching. We wanted to aid their abilities, and we wanted to keep them together as a group. It wasn't to form any teams out of it, but the guys liked what they were doing, and they wanted to be a team. So very quickly, with 2 weeks to go, we put a team together, and there was no other feeling than just to get them to play football first of all, but get them to play football the way that I like to play it, which is down on the deck and passing, moving, and all the good stuff about the game that we see sometimes, or not enough, probably at a grassroots level. And in that, we had to get beaten. We got beat, and we got beat because we were learning. And the first 2 years were difficult for their learning, because I don't think they'd taken on board the fact that you have to get beat to get to a bigger picture. But since then, we've been spot on. I mean, all the while they've been spot on. Yes, we've lost some, we've gained some, we've lost some to academies, which is always good, is always a nice thing. One of the big things we want to do here is to make sure that any player leaving us that goes up to the next level is prepared, and I think that's happened.
You got this merger with Redbridge. How did that come about?
Basically because there was nowhere else for us to go in terms of the quality of our football. We'd won 2 leagues in 2 years in 2 different divisions. And I suppose the next step is to go and play in the Eastern Junior Alliance. I didn't want to play in the Echo again. We'd got in there for the first time, got into the Prem, won it. So it was to find the lads a level of football that would test them, and we've gone into a little merger with Redbridge, and it can only benefit us, and it can benefit us for the long term as well.
Moving up a level, how do you expect that to affect the players?
If Sunday's anything to go by, I don't expect them to affect them at all. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be your ups and your downs, there's going to be hurdles. I expect the football to be more consistent. I expect them to be challenged more than what probably they have been over the last few years. I expect them to rise above everything that's out there. There's going to be a certain determination in playing an Eastern Junior Alliance. I've been there before, managing it before. Teams don't want to lose, and if they're losing, that they will keep giving it 110%. So we've got a lot to overcome as far as I'm concerned. But I think, like I say, the way that we've moulded the players here and the way that they understand the philosophy, I think we'll be all right.
Given your background in football, what type of advice do you give the players?
It's that one thing in training is you never know who's watching. So I ask them to train the way they play. Don't turn up sloppy to training. Don't, muck about in training. Don't, because it is their futures. A lot of them want a future in the game, and a future in the game can start at any point. Players want to get into the Premier League clubs and all that. That's the glamorous stuff. But I say to them, it's particularly at our level now, you can go in at any level, and you can make a good standard out of it and a good career out of it. So one of the most important things is to train the way you play. Dedicate yourself in training as you would in terms of the games as well.
And given the foreign influence at the Premier League, how important is it for clubs to have players to have places like this to come and train?
It's massive. Let's be serious. If you're a young English talent now, you're not going to make it at Chelsea. You're not going to make it at Arsenal. You're not going to make it at Man City. The next level, they're looking for the fallout from those Premier League clubs. So you've got to look at, your League One, your League Twos, dipping into your non-leagues. You've got to look at that as your breeding ground. And, the level of football that I ask the players to play at, it will hold them in good stead no matter what level of football they're going in. The more they go into non-league, you've got to work hard. You've got to play to the best of your ability, because football doesn't mess about. If you're off your game for a part of it, you'll get found out, and that's one of the most important things that we've instilled in the young players that we've got here.
Do you encourage the players to possibly take up the opportunity of a non-league team?
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, there's no point holding anybody back. What we try and do is make sure that they're a rounded player to be able to achieve at that level. Luckily, I've been at that level for a very, very long time, managed, brought young players through, and seen the standard that they need to get to. Not all the group is going to do it. Not all the group is going to be players, but that's football. That's the real world. But what we are doing here is to make sure that whatever level the lads want to pitch themselves at, there's an opportunity for them to go and excel.
Do you get players who have been released from pro clubs?
Not really. I mean, I've worked with players before that have been released from pro clubs. We've got a couple that have returned to us from pro clubs. But the main thing about these young lads is when I took them, a lot of them came from backgrounds that probably weren't conducive to playing football. A lot of them never thought that they would have an outlet of football as their careers. What we've instilled in them is that, you know what, you can play no matter what your background, no matter what your level. And to be fair, the improvement that I've seen in a number of them, a lot of them have been on this journey with us all the way through. And from where they were as the little babies that I call them at 11 years of age to where they are now as young men, there's been a marked difference in them. And to be honest with you, I stand there really proud.